Special Agent Jonathan Trapp says 7 of the 10 escapees are still at large. The FBI is offering $10,000 per inmate. The men face a variety of charges, including aggravated assault, domestic abuse battery, and murder. The Food and Drug Administration has approved a blood test to detect conditions in the brain tied to Alzheimer's disease.
The test, called Lumipulse, measures 2 proteins found in the blood's plasma to find if a patient has plaque in the brain. Tests up until now have been more invasive, using brain scans and a spinal tap to confirm the presence of plaques. An FDA spokesperson said the clearance is an important step for Alzheimer's disease diagnosis, making it easier and more accessible for patients in earlier stages. Tasha Stevens reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me and I'll set you free.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Come together right now over me.
All right, folks, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right. It's time for another episode of America Matters here on Zacky Radio. And coming up in today's show, we're going to talk about a mom who was fined $88,000 for what her kids thought were just some seashells, toxic wildfire debris hiding in the sand of LA's favorite beaches, an alarming spike in cancer among young adults, and the dramatic fall of a once mighty weight loss empire. These are all stories that affect where we play, how we live, and how we stay. Well, before we dive into that, I want to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody out there on 93.7 KPGF as well as AM 1060 and all the folks listening out there on all our affiliate stations like the Answer Network, the Salem Network, the Kevin Jackson Network, Radio for America, and AUN Television. Thank you to everybody for tuning in on those platforms, and thank you to everybody who works at those respective companies for helping get us out there and get this message to all of you. And don't forget, if you want to watch the show, you can always go to America Matters Media's Facebook page or LinkedIn page, or simply go to YouTube or Rumble and go to Zacky Radio and listen and watch there. Get involved in the show. We want to hear from you. But Josh, why don't you start us off here with what's going on with this $88,000 fine for collecting seashells?
Howdy. Well, hopefully you can hear me today. Been trying to get my mic issues fixed up.
Clear.
Perfect. Well, imagine this. You're on a family beach trip. The sun is out, kids are playing, and you're soaking in the beauty of the Pacific Ocean. But by the time you pack up, you're hit with an $88,000 fine. That's what happened to Charlotte Roos, a California mom, after her children unknowingly gathered protected clams at our local Pismo Beach.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. Look, I'm sure that we're going to learn a little bit more as we cover this, but I mean, this is pretty wild. So back last year in 2024, Charlotte took her family to Pismo Beach, because it's a beautiful place. If you haven't been, I've been. You got to go check it out. It's beautiful. It's got wide sandy beaches, and I mean, they got the clams, the Pismo clams. I mean, come on. So her kids, like so many, thought they were just playing around and collecting shells, but what they gathered were 72 live Pismo clams, and it's a very regulated species because they got to protect the population. So wildlife officials intervened, and they issued citations for clamming without a license and for collecting undersized clams. And so the initial fine is an eye-watering $88,000. Which is crazy, but look, and I get that. Look, because you never know, people going out there and abusing the system, and you just keep slapping folks on the wrist and saying, "Hey, don't do that." Well, people are going to realize that there's not really any consequences. So I get why they're going on hardcore like that, but the story takes a hopeful turn. So San Luis Obispo County judge later reduced the fine to just $500, recognizing that the family acted out of innocence and it wasn't malice and they weren't collecting these to sell them or whatever, So Charlotte was even allowed to satisfy the penalty through community service. So, that's good. At least there was a judge that had some common sense and understanding, but it's good to make this known because you don't want people going out there and violating the law. And ignorance of the law is not an excuse for breaking the law, So it's a nice gesture that they did that to accommodate her, and apparently Charlotte has decided to commemorate the ordeal and the lessons learned with getting a tattoo of the shellfish. So a permanent reminder of the trip and a life lesson.
Well, Leo, this is the thing that really that I think is more of a big deal in California than really any other state out there. I mean, finding a family, even $500 for collecting shells, essentially, like, okay, 88,500. Well, that's nice. Okay, good. We look at it like, oh, this is a really nice judge. Good job for dropping it down to $500. But still, I think that's a little excessive for a shellfish. I mean,
yeah, but they're protected, and I'm sure there's a reason. I mean, obviously they're harvested for food, and you have to get them up to mature, sizes so that they can then procreate. That way the species keeps going. There's a whole protocol in that, but they are, so like I said, they're protected, and they have to be at least 4.5 inches in diameter to be legally harvested, and you need a valid fishing license to collect them recreationally as well, so you can pick that up at any bait store or gun store. By the way, most gun stores are selling fishing licenses in California because it is a valid proof of it's a secondary form of identification. So in case people need one to purchase whatever they need at the gun store, that's why they sell them there. It's a cool little trick. So gun stores or sporting goods stores, you can get a fishing license there pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, the initial fine was calculated based on the number and the size of the clams. They took 72 of them.
Wow, yeah, that is a lot. I mean, if they were innocently, like, were they planning on eating them? Was it just innocent? I mean, the point being is that
kids, they're just kids running around the beach and then just picking up every freaking clam that they can get their hands on because they're kids.
Because they're kids, and for whatever weird reason, if the mom was like pimping out those kids for as prostitutes for underage sex workers or whatever, they'd probably not get hit with a fine as bad as they were for
right
collecting clams. What kind of clown world is this state turning into?
Oh, it's a full-on circus. Believe me, this state, trust me, Barnum and Bailey's got nothing on this. So, but it's not an isolated case. California's seen some recent crackdowns on illegal marine harvesting. Over 1,300 undersized clams between May and June of 2023, where they issued 100 citations in 2024. San Diego's got a poaching ring situation where fishermen are legally selling over 5,500 pounds of bluefin tuna, yellowtail, and mahi-mahi. Those fines added up to $145,000. So, I mean, look, you got to protect the population so that they can breed, so we can, not do what China does and rape the season, over harvest, and then things become extinct and, you destroy entire ecosystems. So I get that, but
that's
dang it, he cut out. Well, anyways, the flames are out here in LA, but is the danger really gone? LA beaches might look like paradise, but after the Palisades fire, well, they're not. Toxic debris just lurking beneath your towel. Don't go to the beach right now. Don't go in the water. It's poisonous. We're going to talk more about this when we get back. I'm Leo Zacky with Joshua Matriciana. This is America Matters. We'll see you in a sec.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsyth Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom!
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky. We got Joshua Matriciana with us today. Glad to have him with us. And as I mentioned before we went to break, folks, the beaches here in LA, toxic. All this debris that's been coming in from the rains are doing a whole lot of damage. You don't want to be down there. So you heard about the wildfire that scorched over 23,000 acres earlier this year, and it left devastation across the coastal hillsides. And as summer returns, beachgoers are thinking about flocking to the sands. I'm telling you, don't do it. Environmental groups are raising an urgent question. Is our beach safe? And I'll tell you without having to read any further into this, no, they are not. Do not go there. Even the remnants from places like the Eaton fire. I went out there and covered it with Josh. And what did we see there, Josh? Those blue circles on the gutter drains, the storm drains, that has the blues. It's the blue circle with the dolphin. It says this drains to the sea.
That's right.
So it's not just coming from the Palisades fire.
Yeah, I mean the backlash, we saw it firsthand. I mean, we were out there before the fires were even put out. Like, it was still smoking. We were interviewing firefighters while we were out there. We got full access to going, walking around the beaches. We were literally seeing it at the moment. And you know what? It still looks almost exactly the same as when we filmed it in January.
Yeah.
I was just down in Malibu the other day, and they've cleaned up nothing. Yet there are signs that are stuck in the sand that says, "Oh, this has been cleaned up by the Army Corps of Engineers." Nope.
Yeah, well, they don't have that many people working on the project. I mean, this should be like all hands on deck. Every available person that wants to come and do this cleanup, bring your trucks. Any company out there that's haulers or whatever, junk removal, debris cleanup, construction crews, get them in there. But no, they got to be blocked by all this red tape and environmental nonsense. And even the dump sites are not even technically being allowed to accept this burned out waste material.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you brought up, because even where I'm at, there's a landfill right down, like 2 exits from where I live, and all of the local community, we don't want to have all the toxic sludge from the Eaton fires all the way up in Pasadena, because we're like, about an hour and a half, depending on traffic, away from the Pasadena fires. And they're driving it all the way from up there, all the way out to our local, dump site. And our local community was.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're upset. They got to be upset. But we got to find a place for this. We got to find a place for this stuff to go. We can't keep wasting time. I mean, it's got to go somewhere, Josh.
Yeah, it's got to go somewhere. But where they're picking for it to go again, you're not going to find one place that's going to satisfy everybody's concerns. Maybe out in the middle of the desert where nobody lives.
That's where we should take everything, even those awful battery storage sites.
Ooh, yeah. You recently did a little outing and found out some information about those battery storage sites, didn't you?
Yeah, I was up in Moss Landing yesterday with people who have been burned by the chemicals that have been released into the air, and when they mix with water, it becomes hydrochloric acid, and people have chemical burns from it.
Oh man, I can't wait to find out more about that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad. So,
hey Leo, could Trump come in and help that situation of cleaning up LA since everybody's frozen?
I mean, could he? Possibly, but you have the state and the environmental regulatory processes here that would push back, and it would just get drawn out in some legal battle. That's the big issue. And I know Trump is withholding, $250 billion at least from the state because he wants us to have voter ID. And the state needs the money for the cleanup. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's not Trump's fault. This is Gavin Newsom's fault. This is Karen Bass's fault.
Oof.
Mostly Gavin Newsom's fault.
Well, I don't know. Karen Bass is pretty much she's pretty in there too. She's in
Oh
the
yeah,
thick of it.
She's terrible.
I just saw a video on one of the social media platforms about her in Malibu, getting.
Oh God, she was in Malibu. I can't imagine what kind of nonsense she was getting into. Just pretending like, oh, we're doing great. We're doing a good job. I can only imagine that's what they're doing. She's such a liar. They're all liars, and they have nothing positive to bring to the table. But what some environmental groups have been finding, Josh, is that things like Heal the Bay and other independent testers have found elevated levels of heavy metals, like arsenic and zinc, silver. I'm not saying go out there and do a little silver mining, but it's definitely toxic stuff that's floating around out there. But you were saying about Karen Bass.
Oh yeah, she was confronted by some locals in a nice Malibu restaurant. I forget which one, but you've been there, I'm sure. And they said, "Oh, how dare you! It's so rude for you to come up to her and talk to her." I'm like, wow, like the disconnect that these people have.
She's the mayor. She's responsible to everybody in the city of Los Angeles.
And here's her chance to actually talk to local people. And instead of encouraging their conversation, listening to their needs, she says, "How dare you come up and talk to me?" Like, ugh, how rude.
Yeah, that's someone who's been driven mad with power. Because she's above everybody. She's the mayor, of course. That's why she was in Ghana for that very important inauguration of the president or whatever. So there is community action that's going on, which is good. So, a local conservationist personality spent $8,000 to test the Santa Monica Bay and the sand there concerning, the health risks. So people are taking their own under their own fruition to go and figure out what's going on, because clearly we're not getting results and answers from the state or the city. So it's nice to see people stepping up, but the fact of the matter is that this responsibility shouldn't be falling into the hands of the citizens in this regard.
You want to hear a weird little side story to that, since you brought it up?
Yeah.
The conservationist, gosh, that's a tongue twister. The woman who spent, her own money to test the water, she actually had to go to multiple different testing facilities because the county of Los Angeles forbid these testing centers to actually do for not quote unquote non-official. Like if it wasn't the state or the government doing it, the private people weren't allowed to do it. So she had to go out of state to find a different company to do the water test.
I mean, at every turn, they don't want you to see this information. They're trying to hide the information as much as possible. I mean, this is crazy. What do they have to hide? Why do they feel compelled to hide? Or is it because they're hiding their shame and their failure? because everybody recognizes that this is out of control and unacceptable. I think that's what's going on. I mean, these people know that they are failures. That's why they don't want to let this information out. I can't believe they would go to these lengths to stop people from knowing this information.
Well, because probably their response would be considered criminal if it was actually legitimately brought up.
And I guess maybe this way they can deny saying, well, it wasn't a government certified testing center, so these results are void.
Sure. It's how do they call it? It's a CYA, cover your butt.
Oh yeah, that's what the A stands for.
Right.
So there are also cleanup challenges because the EPA has set up a temporary hazardous waste processing site at Will Rogers State Beach, and so that's sparking protests. So nobody's ever going to be freaking happy. But if you have been to Will Rogers State Beach like Joshua and I have, that place is burned out.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
There's barely anything left. So this is causing delays, and the homeowners haven't participated in debris removal programs. So there's all these hangups. I don't understand why. Just bring in the dozers, bring in the dump trucks. One massive effort. Scrape it up.
You'd think that they'd prioritize the areas that are going to be, have the most widespread effects. Literally, the ocean beaches. You'd think that would be where they would, target. Say, hey, let's clean up the beaches first because that's where the most damage can be caused in the oceans. But now we're seeing things like sea life.
Those burned out homes are still there on the sand.
Yeah. Yeah, totally like uncleaned. They're not only just burned out, they haven't done jack squat.
Yeah. I feel your frustration, brother, because this is in our backyard. These are the places that we grew up and you take your kids and where I went as a kid. Okay? These are iconic parts of California, and they are ash and rubble. And now they're toxic because they're not being taken care of in a proper manner. But that would mean we'd have to be proactive as opposed to reactive. But good golly gosh, does this government love to be reactionary to everything?
I saw something on social media last night. That billionaire liberal donating Democrat, Grant Cardone, who had a house in Malibu, he said something that was interesting. He's floating the idea that he's thinking that there might be a process of eminent domain where the state actually just takes all of that beautiful shoreline property.
Oh yeah, well they'll do that.
That's what's been floating around with the tinfoil hat people. I mean, I don't think Grant Cardone's a tinfoil hat guy, but I heard him say it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised because they're all super excited about talking to Josh Green and 15-minute cities, and now they're rezoning from R1 to R3, and I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm a scumbag. So, folks, what you got to do is stay informed. All right, check the LA County Department of Public Health's beach advisories before you visit. But I'm going to tell you right now, just don't go. You're not going to the beach this summer in LA. I'm sorry. Look, it's the same kind of problem we have down in San Diego with like Imperial Beach. Like Imperial Beach has been closed for years because of the sewage, but that stuff has moved so much more north that even in Coronado, it's like a day-to-day, like, can I go in the water or not situation. And obviously you can do whatever you want at your own risk, but when they got these warnings out there that say, hey, it's toxic, don't do it, or they're acceptable levels, which are always going to cause cancer. Remember that. Just don't go. I mean, look, check it before you go, but I'm telling you, do not go in the water in LA. Do not go to the beach in LA. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but don't do it. So also support local environmental groups that are working on cleanup and policy reform. And most importantly, remember that the environmental impacts of wildfires don't end when the flames go out. Okay? So we can prevent this with better leadership. Like me. I'm running for governor. You want to prevent this stuff in the future? You need someone who's going to take proactive stance like me, Leo Zacky. So check me out, please. And remember, the power is yours, as Captain Planet would say. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about cancer and, not just the stuff that swimming in the LA waters and playing on the beaches will do to you. So we'll talk about that when we get back from our break. I'm Leo Zacky with Joshua Matriciana and Shannon Lawson. We'll be right back.
I used to love going for long walks, but my back just doesn't cooperate like it used to.
Same here. But ever since I started a routine with Active Life Integrated Health on Moana Lane, I feel more flexible and in control. You should check them out.
This is Dr. Tom Waldorf. Let's make it happen so you can feel better naturally. To schedule the beginning of your transformation, call 775-842-0065 or visit activelifereno.com online.
Have you been injured in an accident? Trust Adriana Guzman-Freilich at AGF Law, your local personal injury law firm in Reno. At AGF Law, we pride ourselves on being honest, hardworking, and ethical. Let's meet in person to understand your case and fight for your rights. Located near South Virginia and Plum, we're always ready to help. Don't navigate the aftermath of an accident alone. Call Adriana at 775-453-9595 or visit adrianalegal.com. Your recovery is our priority, and we're committed to getting you the justice you deserve.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities. We are Rotary. We are people of action. With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. Around the world, generations of leaders build new friendships and solve problems, turning great ideas into reality. Take action with us. Find out more at rotary.org/action.
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Joshua Matriciana and Shannon Lawson today. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on with cancer, and the cases are increasing here in this country. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's definitely related to those COVID scamdemic, what they call vaccines, which are really just, mRNA injections, experimental poison. But that's a whole separate thing. So, Josh, why don't you lead us in with this?
Yeah, sure. Cancer used to be something we associated with old age, but not anymore. A new national study reveals early onset cancers are rising sharply, and it's changing how we think about health in our 30s and 40s.
Yeah, a new major study by the National Cancer Institute has revealed that early onset cancers are increasing across several major types, defying long-held assumptions about cancer. Cancer mostly, about is disease for older people. So we're here to break down the numbers and the why and what that means for you and your loved ones. So we've got some information here that was a study done by the National Cancer Institute, and they analyzed over 2 million cancer cases here in the U.S. from 2010 to 2019. And their big finding was that early onset cancers are on the rise. So the top cancers with the biggest increases amongst people under 50 were breast cancer in females, obviously. Not obviously, but it can happen in men, but it's predominantly. So female breast cancer. Then you got colorectal cancer, kidney cancer, uterine, endometrial cancer, and pancreatic cancer. And other increasing cancers in young people they discovered were melanoma, cervical cancer, stomach cancer, multiple myelomas, and bone and joint cancers. So these are all really terrible.
as someone who lost a parent to cancer, I intimately saw the whole process. It's not a pretty situation. It's not a fun thing. It's very awful. But one thing that RFK Jr. has been talking about a lot is that a lot of these cancers were generally unheard of, decades ago, and yet now we're seeing, even in the past 10 years, 20 years, this steep incline in new cases of cancer where it wasn't before. Something's happening, and that's what I think is undeniable. There's something happening, and it's killing everyone. To some extent, it's infecting everybody. Where's it coming from?
The food, the
it.
mRNA injections that were forced upon us, the chemtrails. Let's see. What other poisonous crap is going on that's relatively new?
Well, we already know that big pharma has had a massive hold on our legislation and our legislators, because if they just have huge amounts of money. If you watch like any news outlet, pretty much 90% of the commercials are coming from big pharma. So they're all getting paid by big pharma. Therefore, they're not going to report on anything that goes against the overlord's interests. And I think that what's happened in this most recent election is that suddenly we seem to have people who aren't necessarily under the thumb of big pharma. So we're starting to talk about it, or at least hear more about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy because we are one of two countries that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise their drugs on television. It's us in New Zealand, just so everybody knows. That's why they do it. I mean, but it's crazy because I was watching a commercial, obviously for some drug, and I mean, just next time you hear a commercial for some like drug for like, it might be like something for like eczema or whatever, just listen to the fast talking side effects and just really hone in on that. I mean, just like anal bleeding or like different types of cancer, like
depression, thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, and
death.
it's like this is a pill for eczema or like an injection. Like they're like, oh, twice weekly injection for eczema. You're like, what? Like this all occurred, and you're like, yeah, it's good to go. This could happen, but it's good to go. It'll clear up your skin.
Does anybody actually do those commercials work? Does anyone actually go out and tell your doctor about trying Zompradom, and they do it? Does anyone actually do that?
I mean, I think there are people out there that do suffer from things like that, and it weighs heavy on their mind, or they have like, I don't know, because you see things for like, IBS commercials or Crohn's disease, or I mean, you all watch TV, you hear the commercials, right? So that, people are definitely suffering from these ailments. Otherwise, they, one, wouldn't be pitching these drugs, and two, yeah, because people are definitely going to their doctors and asking about it.
I wonder if it's just if it's just a big money laundering scheme. They have to put the commercials up there to pay the companies, to pay the news corporations the money, to run the stories that they want.
That is an interesting thought.
I don't know how effective those commercials are. Would drug companies actually lose money if they stopped putting money onto the onto the
I mean, the doctors are all on the dole out too. You come in for a checkup or whatever, they're like, oh, would you like to? We notice you have this. We have this new drug that just came out, and every time they write a script, they get a kickback. That's another fact that is undeniable. But some of the other information here, like 63% of these early onset cancers are occurring in women. So, but women also have more parts that are susceptible to cancer.
They also are the more the ones that are generally more targeted because they're the ones that produce the children. And if you have a country with low birth rate, or you're not going to have a successful population, easily manipulated, controlled. Again, it's not tinfoil hat if it's true.
Right. But as I mentioned, you're seeing a lot of that, but it's also, you're seeing deaths happen from colorectal and uterine and testicular cancers, which have also increased. So that last one has definitely got to be tied for colorectal as the worst.
Oof.
You know, so I mean, look, they're saying obesity rates could be causing this, or a westernized diet of processed foods. I'm gonna go with that. They say red meat and alcohol. Okay, I'm gonna not say red meat, and I'm definitely not gonna say alcohol, because people used to drink a hell of a lot more back in the day, and you didn't see cancer like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and 86 the red meat and the alcohol. I'll go with the processed foods. Okay, that's a ding 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 right there. Sedentary lifestyles, I can see that as a possibility. Delayed childbirth and reproductive changes. If you mean, taking, the birth control pill, that might be a reproductive change that's going to affect bodies. Yeah, I could see that one. I don't know about maybe not so much delayed childbirth. I'll go with reproductive changes, like the drugs that people are taking.
Right.
And of course, improved screening and earlier detection, just like they've gotten so much better at finding autism. And it has nothing to do with the injections that they're giving children as soon as they're born. They're just better at diagnosing it. So I'm going to go ahead and call that bogus.
Tony Garcia Martin chimes in. She says all the hormones they prescribe and cancerous tainted water.
Absolutely. Tony Garcia Martin, you're right on the money. So, the one thing, though, is that what they did see declining in young people are lung cancer and prostate cancer. So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
I guess people aren't smoking as much. I mean, even though people are vaping like it's, like it's going out of style. So who knows? I'm sure we'll see all sorts of, because I heard about the popcorn lung crap coming from smoking all those Chinese chemicals.
Swapping one chemical out for another. I mean, one thing that people, forget to, to mention is that we live in a much more chemicalized. I don't know if you want to what people used to, the chemicals that people used to be, exposed to. That's the word. Sorry, it took me a second. The chemicals that people used to be exposed to were like dozens in our grandparents' time. Now it's like in the thousands, and that's probably another thing. You're using chemicals for again. It comes down to the big chemical companies and big pharma, and it's like who's there restricting what you can and can't.
Well, the USDA and the FDA, they're there to protect you.
They're on the payroll, though. I don't like them.
That's the joke of it all. You got Bill Gates spraying a peel on fruits and vegetables now, that chemical. But, FDA says it's safe. I say it's definitely not. Anything from Bill Gates is not safe. But there's other important factors here too. You got to know your family history, because that does, recognize that, if you're more susceptible to what types of cancers, and then obviously talk to your doctor and do the appropriate screenings, even if you're under 50, and adopt preventative habits like, eat a balanced diet, stay active, avoid tobaccos, even though it's hard for folks, including myself, and obviously be responsible when it comes to drinking, but also share this information in this episode with your friends and family, especially young adults who might not realize that they are at risk. And look, we're all in this together, folks. So awareness is the first step towards action. So when we come back, we're going to go from weight loss to giant struggling brand, and what led Weight Watchers' dramatic decline, and why are so many longtime users turning away. So this is America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Joshua Matriciana and Shannon Lawson. We'll be right back.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? hard to find?
A Proper Fit footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by a Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
In times of market volatility, it can be a good reminder to revisit your financial strategies to make sure they align with your goals. Call 775-674-2222 or visit nvretirementplanners.com. Advisory services are offered through Nevada Retirement Planners, an investment advisor in the state of Nevada. Any insurance products and services are offered through Nevada Senior Advisors. Nevada Retirement Planners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Nevada Retirement Planners does not provide legal or tax advice.
Ah, I used to love going for long walks, but my back just doesn't cooperate like it used to.
Same here. But ever since I started a routine with active life integrated health on Moana Lane, I feel more flexible and in control. You should check them out.
This is Dr. Tom Waldorf. Let's make it happen so you can feel better naturally. To schedule the beginning of your transformation, call 775-842-0065 or visit activelifereno.com online.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Joshua Matriciana today, and we got Shannon Lawson making it happen. And as I mentioned before we went to break, we're going to talk about what's going on in the downfall of Weight Watchers. Josh, why don't you lead us in with some more info about that?
Absolutely. Once it was worth over $2.5 billion, its name was synonymous with weight loss success. It's a company with roots stretching back to 1963, built on group meetings, accountability, and a clever point system for food, a brand that counted on Oprah Winfrey herself among its many shareholders.
Yeah, well, now fast forward to 2025, and, Weight Watchers International faces a harsh new reality. Its subscriber numbers have plummeted. Its revenue has been cut nearly in half. Its business model has been blindsided by a new rival. Not another weight loss program, but a tiny injectable medicine that you know and probably have seen on television a lot, called Ozempic. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, where is Weight Watchers going next?
Again, it's the chatter about does healthy lifestyle versus the quick and easy take this magic pill.
Yeah, people like the quick and easy, and then there's always a catch. When something's too good to be true, it usually is. One thing I've heard about Ozempic is that it causes the loss of bone density. I'm not signing up for that. I don't care if I need to lose 500 or 5 pounds. I'm not doing that. Period. Not worth it.
I mean, the previous segment, we just talked about how, all of these illnesses, especially cancers, are on the incline. And then immediately here we're seeing, more
people taking shortcuts to lose weight instead of just doing the right thing, dieting and making sure that you're being active, the simple tried and true stuff. Let me tell you, I have friends, they work out very hard. I work out too. But I mean, these guys that take it super serious and, count their calories and their protein intake and make sure they're getting their macros in and all that stuff. Yeah, they're units. They are fit and functional to like you wouldn't believe. Look, I get a workout, I get a pump on, but my problem is my diet. I got to work on cleaning that up. I could have the full 6-pack if I wanted, or full 8-pack. Actually, there is an 8-pack. I like my pasta. Okay, I want to enjoy life a little bit. That's me. That's me. But hey, you know what? At least I'm working out. I'm putting in the energy so I can actually go and eat that stuff and not turn into a blob.
Well, you do something that I think most Americans don't do, and that's so you actually eat food with high quality ingredients. I mean, like for example, Zacky Farms, they had antibiotic free chicken, and making sure that you prioritize your food with things that aren't being pumped with hormones is something I know that you are that you're cautious about and that you take pride in.
Yeah, of course. Those are just small examples of things that I like to do. But I like to eat quality stuff. I'm not trying. I'm not winding up at Del Taco. Don't get me wrong. I wind up at Del Taco. You and I have wound up at Del Taco, but we don't make it. We don't make Del Taco like a foundational staple of our diet.
That was an emergency, but boy, was it good for that.
Look, there's times to indulge. Okay, you got to live life a little bit. Okay, don't get me wrong. But like if you're making a trip to like McDonald's or Burger Dirt or and I love Del Taco, even Del Taco, and that's like a multi-day, multi-meal sort of situation per week, you got a problem.
Yeah.
That's going to lead to some obesity issues. So, they started back in 1963. They grew this, because everybody was getting fit back in the 60s. At least that's when this fitness trend sort of started. And now, they've got a lot of debt, like a $1.6 billion debt here. And their revenues have just dramatically fallen off. So that's what happens with the way that the industry has shifted. It's crazy to see this very notable, recognizable company that we grew up hearing about in a financial situation like this, and now they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which my family's done. It doesn't mean they're out of business. It's restructuring. It's a protection thing. I understand it. Been through it. They can come back from something like this. So hopefully they do. I hate to see companies go out of business, but sometimes things go the way of the dodo. But you can also do something very smart and clever, like a strategic pivot. So they acquired a healthcare tech company, Sequence, in 2023 to enter the telehealth and weight loss drug space. So they are working towards pivoting, which is a good sign. And, it aims to reposition themselves as a holistic virtual health clinic, blending behavioral programs with pharmaceutical solutions. I hope they stick more to the holistic and behavioral component, but don't get me wrong, at some points, pharmaceutical options are necessary. I don't know about for weight loss necessarily, but, is what it is. So I'm glad to see that that's taking place, because Weight Watchers, they're a good company. The idea was to trim down America, keep people fit. They didn't seem to be a malice company, right? They are the ones that started the whole. They invented meal prep before people were even meal prepping. And shipping pre-made meals to people's homes like that. That they pioneered that. People forget that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the other thing is it's become a household name. I mean, Weight Watchers. If you're trying to lose weight, where's the first thing you think? Oh, Weight Watchers. Yeah, okay. But one thing I think that this, especially in 2025, we're starting to realize a generation of much more health conscious younger people who are like, you know what? I'm tired of eating this crap. I'm tired of the way that it makes me feel bad. I want to take the next step in my in my my healthy lifestyle, and we're starting to see an uptick, especially people in our age.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, because we know what's going on and we're paying attention, and we're scrolling through social media, and we're seeing all the stuff that RFK Jr. is talking about and that Maha's putting out, and we're learning about glyphosate and atrazine and the fluoride in our water and the chemtrails that states like Tennessee and now Florida have outlawed, by the way. So rack up another good one. The things like yellow 5 and red 40, and, all these food additives and stuff like that. People are learning about them and where they're derived from. It's like, why the hell are we eating this crap? And people are putting two and two together. They're figuring out there's a correlation here.
I think it's a twofold response that we're seeing. First of all, I think that with these people who are going into trying to be, social media famous or whatever, become influencers, that they're recognizing that, your appearance is important, and people care more about the whole lifestyle than it is that, oh, do you look? It's more like, no. It's not just looking good, but it's it's having this whole holistic kind of healthy mentality where it's, you are what you eat, you are what you do. And I think that there's an embrace more for that, which I encourage. But the other part of the flip side to that is that I think that, what RFK is doing with this movie is actually removing the poisons that we've been fed for the past couple generations. Like since the 80s, I think we've been force-fed essentially, or at least to unknowingly to all of these dangerous chemicals that we don't even know how to pronounce.
I mean, when was the last time y'all, just go into the pantry? I don't know, grab a bag of chips or look at that can of soda, and just read the ingredients.
Yeah. Why do we have 40 ingredients on there? There should be like 4 or 5,
max.
Yeah.
How many, like if you were baking a cake, let's say you're baking a cake from scratch, right? We're going to have like flour, water, eggs, maybe oil, maybe like a vegetable oil, which I'd say swap out
butter,
for olive oil.
Yeah.
Butter. Yeah. Butter even,
but,
and then like some sort of flavor.
But the problem is that, even with flour, like you look at that bleach flour, and
it's not just flour, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of it. Yeah.
All sorts
of
ingredients. Yep. All sorts of extra stuff.
We've started milling our own grains, which
really, that's something different. I don't know. I mean, that's got to be a lot of hard work to mill your own grains like that. I mean, it sounds like a really great way to go about it, especially if you know where you're sourcing your material from, especially if it's like, natural organic wheat that's never been sprayed with glyphosate or any of those pesticides like, atrazine or whatever on there. I think that's a great thing to do. Of course there's an extra step involved, but when you're doing it yourself, when you know where you get those, raw base materials from, you've got more control over what you put in your body.
Yeah. I mean, and milling it yourself, we got a little hand crank because it's like $600 for an electric one, or it's like $30 for a little hand crank one. Yeah, okay. So it gets the blood pumping, but you've got whole grains, and I'm gonna tell you what, using flour from whole grains that we just milled like a few minutes before, it is night and day the flavor. Delicious.
I bet I gotta get on that. Sounds like a little bit extra work, but I'm willing to try it out. But I'll tell you what, Josh, unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I think that's a good place to leave it, inspiring folks to go and mill their own grain. Why not? Hey, I've baked stuff from scratch with my own 2 hands. Tastes a hell of a lot better. And it's not because I did it. It's because it's whole ingredients. It's better for you.
And you feel good that you accomplished it all by yourself, right?
Well, that too. But unfortunately, we are out of time on America Matters. We will see all of you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.